Hey everybody, Dr. Dost here. Welcome back to my channel, Biblical Languages and Literature. Today we're going to be looking at Jonah 1:1 and 1:2 in the Hebrew, the Aramaic Targum, and in the Septuagint. Before we get started, if you haven't already become a subscriber on my Patreon channel, I encourage you to subscribe to the comprehensive Hebrew and Aramaic tier, which will give you access to all of my Hebrew, all of my Aramaic, and even my Greek videos that I produce from time to time. And for $12 a month, you're gaining access to more than 2 years' worth of seminary-level education in both Hebrew and in Aramaic. And one seminary course often costs $2,000 or so just for 3 credits. So I thank you for considering becoming a subscriber to my Patreon channel and helping me to continue to produce these in-depth videos on the Bible. And if you have any requests of videos that you'd like me to produce, please be sure to send me a comment on the Patreon channel, and I'll happily give it some consideration. All right, let's get started with our video. So we're going to start with the Hebrew of Jonah 1:1. Vayhi devar Adonai el Yonah ven Amitai lemor. Vayhi devar Adonai el Yonah ven Amitai lemor. Now, I already have a separate video in which I deal with an in-depth analysis of the Hebrew of Jonah 1:1, so you should check that out if you want me to go through this a little bit slower. The purpose of beginning with the Hebrew in this video is so that we can see the interpretive maneuvers that Targum Jonathan of the prophets and the Septuagint text of Jonah, that they make in their reading of the Hebrew. So as I argue in that video, Vayhi really needs to be translated something like, now it came, now it came. Now, Hayah, the root here, or I should say hey yud hey, the root of this verb, Vayhi, generally means to be, but in certain contexts, it means to come to or to arrive. And we see that often when we're talking about the word of the Lord. So I would translate Vayhi devar Adonai. Devar Adonai, of course, means the word of the Lord. Now the word of the Lord came el Yonah, to Jonah. Okay. Now the verb beit vav aleph is the usual verb meaning to come. But when we talk about the word of God coming to the prophet, the verb hayah is appropriate. Vayhi devar Adonai. Now the word of the Lord came, El Yonah, to Jonah, Ven Amitai, the son of Amitai, lemor. And lemor is the infinitive construct, which, a more word-for-word translation, a wooden translation would be to say, but lemor is often best translated with comma quotation marks when it is introducing direct speech. So I would argue that the best rendering here, now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai, comma, quotation marks, and then we get into verse 2. Some translations will have the word saying for lemor, which is fine, but it's really unnecessary. I don't think lemor is meant to be translated with the word saying. It's just introducing direct speech. All right, so now let's look over to the left and we'll have a glance at the Targum to see how Targum Jonathan's rendering of Jonah 1:1 compares with the Masoretic text. So there it says, Vahava pitgam nivua min kodam Adonai im Yonah var Amitai lemema. So vahava, hava is the suffix conjugation. Hava corresponds to the Hebrew form hayah, meaning it was, and vahava is going to mean now it was. So vahava is going to be the literal word-for-word rendering of Vayhi into Aramaic. So Vayhi, the most literal way you can represent that in Aramaic is with vahava. And then we get pitgam nivoah, a word of prophecy. A word of prophecy. So there we see our first deviation from the Hebrew text. So lemor in Hebrew is lememar in Aramaic. And so we can see with the infinitive constructs that there is a mem prefix here, a mem prefix. Now I just want to look at section 25 of Stevenson's Aramaic grammar and notice here how initial aleph verbs are treated. So the verb aleph mem resh is very similar to how it would be treated. The third masculine singular suffix conjugation form is very similar to how it would be in Hebrew. It's just that Aramaic will have a reduced vowel, the chataf patach, whereas Hebrew would have the long A vowel kamatz. And so we get amar. In the imperfect, or what I like to call the prefix conjugation, notice that the aleph disappears and we have the yud prefix followed by the yud of the vowel, yemar, yemar. That is something we will not see in Hebrew. The aleph will not disappear. Okay, now let's quickly have a look at the Greek. Now we get kai agenito, which means and it happened. Again, this is a very literal translation of vayihi. In fact, let's just have a look at that. So as you can see, I've done a search for vayihi in Hebrew. You can see it in red there. And if we look over at the Targum, we get vahava, vahava, exactly like we have in Jonah 1:1. And if we go down to the Greek, kai, agenito, phos, vayihi, or, and there was light. Kai, agenito, phos. So vayihi in Hebrew, vahava in Aramaic, agenito, or should I say kai, agenito in Greek. Okay, we look at Genesis 1:5 now. Pros me, to me. So presumably the interpretive move here by the Septuagint, they're saying that wickedness does not arise before God, but it's a cry concerning wickedness that rises up before God. And so the Septuagint offers this clarification. All right, well, that does it for this video. If you've enjoyed looking at the Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic together of Jonah 1:1 through 2, tune in next time when we cover verse 3. See you next time, everybody.